now we're actually started here. So, welcome to the show. So, no David today. It is just Pierce today. So, we got something a little bit different. We've done theme shows before, but nothing exactly like this. So we got a couple themes. First theme is should TikTok be banned, and that is referring to in the United States. But if you want to talk about a different country, we're not going to discriminate against other countries or anything, but what do you think? Should it be allowed in the United States for people to use, or should they get rid of it? And then the other one, does Biden, meaning President Biden, of course, does he have mental decline? And with regards to both of these topics, subjects, what do you think is true? How did you come to your conclusion? And why is it important to you? Why did you want to talk about it? So the way this works is you raise your hand. Snow will be happy to bring you up on stage, and then we will chat about one of those two topics, whichever one you want. Or I'll even be nice enough to open it up to talk about whatever you want. If there's anything else, I'll even allow that because I'm a nice guy tonight. I'm feeling feeling good, like I'm in a gracious mood today.
Pierce is a very nice guy.
Try to be a nice guy.
Yeah. What do we got, guys? Come on. Let's show them what PNR is all about.
All right, we got Phoenix. Let's bring Phoenix in. I think we've talked before. I think we had a good conversation before, actually. What's up, Phoenix?
Yes, I do believe we did. How are you?
Doing good. And Snow is on my screen right now, so I'm going to make a quick little adjustment here if I can before we... Oh no, what am I doing? This is... Snow, what happens if you unmute?
Nothing.
Oh, nothing. Okay, you don't move. Okay, how do I fix this? This is off to a wonderful start. Why is that screen there?
By the way, hi, Phoenix.
What's going on?
So glad to see you up here.
Oh, well, nobody raised their hand yet, so I thought I might.
I personally appreciate that. I appreciate everybody standing by here while I try to figure out what in the world is going on here. Because this is a little bit strange. OBS is acting up. I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
I can lay out both my weak positions on these topics if you want me to while you're working.
Yeah, why don't you begin to lay that out for me? And yeah.
So should TikTok be banned? I mean, probably. So the intelligence community is telling us that TikTok is actually just very advanced Chinese spyware. They're probably right because that's what we pay them to do. So probably it should be banned if it's a security threat. I also don't see immediately why a U.S. company couldn't immediately replicate what TikTok is doing. YouTube is actually doing it right now. YouTube has like a YouTube short deal, and I'm sure other companies could follow. So I don't really see that TikTok would leave much of a hole even if it was banned. I think the U.S. could easily copy this, or a U.S. company would, even if Beijing doesn't let the parent company sell its assets to a U.S. company. So in general, I do think TikTok ban would be a good idea. As far as Biden having mental decline, there are two responses to this. The first is probably. So I think most older people, I think you can safely say that there's good psychological or neurological reasons to think that an older person is not in the prime of their mind. I'm not a neuroscientist or a psychologist, so I won't be making that strong of a claim. I'll just point to that general consensus. And then the second answer would be saying that he does have mental decline, making that very strong case, does seem to have just a political agenda behind it that I see no real evidence for. So they'll claim that he's mentally declining, but they'll also claim that he's a criminal mastermind who organized Ukraine payouts to his son and Chinese payouts to his son and all this that no one could find any evidence for. they say that he orchestrated stealing the election, that no one can. So if he's in mental decline, he's also a criminal genius. So I think you have to pick one of those. And yeah, I think that. Oh, the other big piece of evidence is all you have to do is watch Biden speak, especially compared to Trump. So, for example, during the State of the Union, where he misspoke a few times, but otherwise was incredibly lucid. Yeah, they made up. Oh, he's on drugs. He's on performance enhancing drugs. It's like, no, that's just actually when he's passionate and in his right mind. That's exactly what he sounds like. So, no evidence of mental decline as far as I can see. The only other big speech of his that I've heard was when he addressed the Poles on at their capital when he was talking about Ukraine and all the things that the Poland did for the Ukrainians and the war. So I didn't see any evidence of mental decline there either. So
Okay. All right. Of these two topics, the TikTok and Biden, which one of these do you think is more important? More important to you?
More important to me personally, I think that if the president of the United States was actually in mental decline, I think that would be more of a security threat than a single piece of foreign spyware, probably. So in that sense, probably the president one.
Okay. So, of these two things, you would say that the mental either decline or not decline of President Biden is more important to get that one correct than to be correct about whether TikTok should be banned or not?
I would think so, particularly because even if you didn't ban TikTok, there would be more safeguards in place, right? So you could just have no TikTok on U.S. government phones or devices, for example. Like you could limit the damage. It seems to me that there are fewer safeguards for the leader of the free world not being in their right mind.
Okay, gotcha. All right. And when you first started talking about if Biden has mental decline, I believe you had said that he does, and then later on you said you didn't see evidence of it in certain speeches. I'm kind of wondering where your position really is.
Right. So I gave two versions of this answer. So the first one is depending on the type of question you're asking, right? So the first seems to be a general question, right? Do people in late age have the same mental acuity than they have in their 30s and 40s? The answer is probably not, right? Just as a general rule. So because Biden fits in that general category, absent other testing, you should probably answer the affirmative. So if that's what you mean by decline, then sure. If by mental decline you mean the piece of propaganda that is used as a weapon against him politically, then no, I see no evidence that he's mentally declining. Certainly not at the rate of a certain other presidential candidate, nor by anyone else in a comparable population. I see no evidence.
Okay, gotcha. I think that clears it up pretty well. So I think what you're saying is, yeah, he may have lost a few steps as natural when you start to get older in age, but he's not like completely lost his mind and incompetent or uh, not able to fulfill the duties of his job. Is that about right?
Right. And I
Okay.
also think there have been a few people to come out in his administration too that I think that have vouched for him and have vouched for his capability. I don't know how much of that is political posturing versus not, but I do know that there are people around Trump, for example, who constantly say that he's absolutely freaking lost it. So
Okay.
I will wait for a Biden case, someone close to him or in his cabinet to make a claim like that, then I will evaluate it. So.
Okay. Gotcha. Is listening to someone in his cabinet or close to him the best way to determine if, where he is mentally?
Probably. Well, the best way would always be like psychological evaluation, right? So, I personally would advocate for extensive psychological testing on anyone who wanted to be representative, let alone a president, right? I don't think that that's strange at all. In the absence of that, then yes. So the people who are closest to you or interact with you the most often probably would be able to figure out warning signs before the rest of us. I do think it is easy to fake being intelligent for a 15-minute speech, right? that could be pre-planned out, but I think it's a lot harder for day-to-day interactions, right? So in the
Okay.
absence of psychological testing, I do think, yes, what you would be looking for is warning signs from the people around him, and then look for, obviously, just TV and stuff like that, public speeches, public
Okay.
behavior.
So the best way would be a psychological evaluation. The next best might be people who are close to him, kind of seeing what they're saying, right? In the case of the president, at least, seeing if they're speaking out on social media, stuff like that, I assume. And
Right, so
then,
yeah, you could actually think of this as like a two-part continuum. So the first would be frequency, and the second would be psychological expertise, right? So the best method would be psychological evaluation all the time, like daily, from experts, because you'd have that frequency of interaction. And then absent that, you would have one, right? So you're going down in frequency of interaction. And then absent that, you would start adjusting the expertise bar, right? So more people interacting with you can pick up more warning signs just by the nature of the interaction. And then the worst case would be one person not well versed in psychology at all, right?
okay, gotcha. And in this particular circumstance, since this is a public official, the highest ranking public official, we don't actually have a psychological test, and people who close, we don't have access to that. Maybe he's going through that, maybe he's not. I certainly don't know. So in this circumstance, realistically, the best, in your opinion, I think you'd agree with this, correct me if I'm wrong, the best way to figure this out would be to look to the people closest to him, see what they're saying, and then kind of make evaluations based on speeches that he's given, other public events and interactions that he has been a part of.
Right. So, for example, if he was forced to take a test for dementia, right, and he didn't, I don't think the results of Trump's were released. But then, if he then falsely bragged that this was an acuity test and that he got like an amazing score on it, right, that would be a sign that there was something seriously psychologically wrong with the person that even I, a non-psychologist, might be able to pick up on, right? If there was something like that for Biden, right, as there is for Trump, then that would be a warning sign, I think.
Hmm. Okay. And why would that be a good indicator of a warning sign?
Uh, Misrepresentation, delusion of grandeur, either intentional or not. So just constantly having a false front, constantly selling yourself when there's no need. Yeah, just extreme insecurity, inability to empathize. Say what you want about Biden. I've seen him cry. Like I've seen him like shed tears at Arlington Cemetery, like for the memory of his son. Like I've seen him be moved to tears by voters. Like I think I realize that you could fake that, but I think that is harder to fake.
Okay. Have we drifted off of mental decline, and maybe this would be a warning sign of something else, or are we still on that?
I think mental decline could be two things, right? You could say decline as in just purely like hard intelligence, like performance, something like that, or you could talk about decline as the acquisition of a disorder, right?
Okay.
So you're gaining something, but it's a bug.
Okay. So that's probably what you're referring to just now?
Right.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. Okay. And would this warning sign, how confident should we be that this bug was acquired? Super confident, somewhat confident, not very.
How confident should I, a non-psychologist, be examining something like that? Like next
Yeah.
to zero, right?
Okay. Interesting. Are are you confident at all that that warning sign would be a good indicator, or
A good indicator that it's more probable than not, sure.
but we shouldn't, but you shouldn't be confident? I'm losing track here.
Sure. So if I see what I take to be a warning sign, right, of mental decline, right, there are a couple of other hurdles that I have to go through, right? I have to acknowledge that I'm not an expert. I have to acknowledge that I could be being fed biased information, right? And all those things are things that a psychologist sitting down with someone and evaluating them would not have. It's actually why, and I can't actually believe this has been brought up yet, but there's this thing called the Goldwater Rule. Maybe you're familiar. Um, the public was
Mm-mm.
recently reminded of this with the Johnny Depp Amber Heard case, where it's actually considered unethical for psychologists and experts to weigh in on public figures because they haven't had that examination. It's because
Mm.
these traps exist. So I just have to be, I think as a layperson, my responsibility is just to be aware that I don't have this expertise, that even the experts exercise caution in examining people um, from an armchair instead of the therapist couch, right?
Okay.
But if you're putting the question to me, then I have to answer it as best I can.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, should we, with this in mind, everything you just said, should the public withhold judgment before they get this evaluation from an expert on the therapist's chair or whatever?
Well, I don't know if the public is going to get it, and I don't
Hmm.
think that in general, especially not with the what ballot is going to be given to us. I don't think we also have the option of just not choosing, right? So I think we're going to be forced to choose whether or not we have that information, right? I don't really see what difference it's going to make.
Okay.
I highly doubt we're going to get it. It'd be nice if we did, but I don't think his opponent is going to release it, so it would be in his best interest probably not to.
Okay. If it was us lay people making our own kind of evaluation, or referring to an expert who's sitting back just like us, not actually physically interacting and just watching on TV, whose opinion, whose should we trust what the expert is saying? Should we go with what we think? What would be the best route to go?
Probably the expert. It depends. So, your question could have been taken a couple ways, right? So it could have been 1,000 people just noticing something strange on TV, and then an expert just a single expert saying, "Oh no, you got it wrong." Like,
Hmm.
I don't know. I've never seen. It'd be interesting if I had another example to appeal to. I'm not aware of any example in like popular culture where, say you had 1,000 laymen just evaluate a piece of behavior, like a single piece of behavior, and say, "Is this normal?" Right? Depending on what it was and like how much research had been done into the particular behavior, I do think the expert could overrule the 1,000 on some basis, and on others, I wouldn't be sure. I don't know. I think that might be too broad. I don't know how to answer that question.
Okay. No, I think that's yeah, that's an okay answer. I mean, um, yeah. Okay. Well, I'm gonna remind everybody that they can raise their hand if they want to come up on stage. We can, if someone else raises their hand, we can move on to them. Otherwise, we can move on to TikTok if you want to talk about that
Yeah.
for a moment.
Well, if I raise my hand to start, then and I don't have a strong position, I'm really just looking to contextualize both, if that helps the show. So
Yeah, yeah, no problem. I mean, just being up here and progressing the show, I appreciate that.
sure, we can move on to TikTok, or somebody
Yeah.
can get me out of here. Somebody
Oh,
can tag me out.
somebody's
Tail
taking you
wants
out
to
here,
go.
Tail. Yeah.
Thanks, Tail.
Thank you, Phoenix.
No problem.
Thanks, man. Hey, Tail. I think we've talked before as well.
Hey, Pierce.
Hey,
Yes,
Tail.
yeah. Hey, Snow. So, which one would you like to address first?
Whichever one you are more passionate about.
Oh yeah, that's okay. Well, let's start with TikTok, since I don't think you guys touched on that as much. Correct?
Correct.
So I think the biggest concerns about TikTok is this intersection of geopolitical implications of how TikTok handles data for especially millions of American users, and how that might potentially cause a risk for national security. So I think it's appropriate for the United States to look at potentially limiting or banning it, especially if they are not following or we have good intelligence that they may be leveraging it for bad purposes. So without any kind of real global regulatory policy, a ban of TikTok I think is a good thing, because this does cause problems with like user identification and potentially propaganda, which could further hurt America, especially if TikTok decided to show things to people in a way that could create an uprise. You know what I mean? Like discontent
Mm-hmm.
between people. So the pros are obviously freedom of speech and the social connections that people have created on the platform. Before TikTok, I'm sure you're aware there was something called Vine.
Yeah,
Have you heard about that?
I've heard of it.
Yeah, Vine. Yeah, Vine was incredibly popular, and it was very much like TikTok. And so I think we can make an alternative platform that could be under our regulatory policies. So I don't really think it's a big loss if we lose TikTok. I understand the pros. I understand why freedom of speech and social connection and getting the word out is important. I do believe that there's other alternatives that we can address the problem.
Okay. I'll kind of repeat back what I think I'm hearing, and you can tell me if I get it correct or if I'm
Okay.
misunderstood at all. So I think the bad stuff, the cons, would be something regarding data. So I think maybe China collects some data from the users. The other
Yeah,
one,
data privacy
data
policies.
privacy.
Yep.
And then we got propaganda. So they might be able to push certain videos that have a certain point of view, maybe, and that might
Right. Or
create an
promote
uprising.
or promote organic videos that could further destabilize our social connections. There might be events that occur and then they can push those to the front and
Oh,
leave out more
gotcha.
positive stories.
Okay, cool. And then the pros of would be freedom of speech. So we're able to express whatever we want to say. Uh, Pretty fundamental to the United States. I think we both have an idea of what that is. And social connection. So if you take away TikTok, we won't be able to talk to other TikTok friends and stuff like that.
Right.
Okay,
And we
cool.
won't be able to have a peek into the lives of other people, because TikTok really does bring people together in a way that many platforms don't. And like Phoenix had mentioned, there are alternatives right now, like YouTube, that are filling that space in a similar way that TikTok is. So I think that's a great step forward, given the cons of TikTok.
Okay. Okay. So with regards to the things that would be less than ideal, so the cons here, is there some sort of value that you hold that is supporting why you feel strongly about those bad things that might happen?
Yeah, it's really interesting because this topic recently came up in a personal setting where certain actors who attempt to, undermine undermine the sovereignty of a particular group, should be mediated or moderated. Sorry, not mediated. They should be moderated because, and this is the primary problem. TikTok can utilize the platform in any way they want. And we gave a couple examples, the one being promoting stories, organic stories that are true, but have a very negative light and allow other, political actors to basically undermine our ability to keep social cohesion. So, yeah, that's probably the biggest con that I feel TikTok has.
Okay. If there was something, okay. So we got the propaganda would be more important than the data that's being you know gifted to the creators of TikTok. Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
Yes, because
Okay.
at the moment I can't imagine all of the scenarios in which they might utilize user data. I know it's a risk,
Mhm.
but you know, I can't really think of use cases where they might leverage that as maliciously as the one I stated about propaganda.
So I think the value behind not wanting the propaganda would be you'd want people to kind of come to their own conclusions and not be influenced in a very impactful way, right? You'd want them to. Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
Right. Like there's a phenomena right now with our news agencies where they know that to get the most views at their 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock news, putting up stories that are more, like that people pay attention to, like it's one of the reasons why I don't watch the news at all, because it's so negative. But these are the things that people pay attention to, because biologically we have this need to survive. We have this need to stay safe. So paying attention to these things are potentially helpful for us, and thus these news agencies knows that they can leverage that in us. In the same way,
Okay.
TikTok could leverage those same biological processes within us when it comes to safety and security
Gotcha. Okay.
for
And
their own
then
purposes.
moving over to the pros, we got the freedom of speech and the social connection. So I think the value for freedom of speech, that kind of is the value, the freedom to express yourself, right? And then the other value for social connection, I think that's the value as well. I think you just stated two values. So we got these two values on the pro end, and then on the, well, of the pro end, is there one that's would be more important than the other? Would freedom of speech be more valuable than the social connection?
Well, let me add one more to that,
Sure.
which I mentioned, is that we are in a place where we can very easily create a platform because we already have, like
Mhm.
Vine.
Yeah.
So we possess the technological, ability to create something that can replace it. So that to me is another value. But so you want to ask me which one do I feel is more important?
Yeah.
Freedom of
Which
speech or
one?
social connection?
Mhm.
Um, freedom of speech is very important to me. I do understand, though, social connection is, I think, not critical now more than ever.
Hmm.
There was an interesting study done where they found that people who go to the bar tend to live longer. There was this, and part of the study was like does alcohol make you, healthier? But what they found out was it was never the alcohol that was doing it. It was socialization, having a place to come together and be able to hang out and talk with your friends. And I mean, like this will this will increase how many years you have in your life better than anything.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
and that was just fascinating. So I believe social connection is critical, especially in today's day and age where people seem to be more isolated than ever.
Okay. So we have kind of the propaganda, which the value behind that is allowing people naturally to come to conclusions without being pushed in a certain direction. And then we have the social connection on the other end of that. Why does the negative, the propaganda, uh, beat out the social connection?
Well, because number one, it is aligned against that value. So propaganda can be used to take a particular group of people and, agitate their concerns and worries such that it breaks down our social connection. It makes it harder for us to connect.
Mm,
So they're directly related.
okay, I see. So I think what I'm hearing is if TikTok were to continue, they could, maybe they're already doing it, maybe they would do it in the future. They could use propaganda to influence the United States, but not only do that, it would also break down our social connection. So that would kind of eliminate that pro. It would kind of become irrelevant.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay. And And why is all of this? Why is this issue important to you?
It's important to me. Well, it's funny because now that as we're talking about it, I think my view on it is actually changing. The more that I verbally process this, the more I'm realizing just how potentially devious this could be, and how it could push our country potentially over a tipping point. So, yeah, I think that's the reason.
Okay. The reason you are, it sounds like you're becoming more confident. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Correct.
Okay. And the reason
Yeah,
you are
as I verbally
becoming,
process this, yeah.
yeah, it's like this could be a tipping point to where people start to fight more, it sounds like. Or
Right. I mean, especially, like they just came out with that movie Civil War. Which by the way, I hear is a really good movie on its own merit. What the movie is really about. It really has a great arc, I hear. I haven't seen it. But that movie has kind of put into the Zeitgeist, I think I'm saying that right. The idea of civil unrest. And these kind of priming people towards these kind of thoughts and ideas. I hear it all the time on Discord where people will say, the world is going to hell.
Mm,
Everything is, can I swear?
sure,
Okay. You know what I was going to say.
probably.
So, yeah. So basically, people have a very negative outlook on where we are in the world today. We're in a very, um, precarious position.
Hmm. Do you share that outlook? Do you also have the negative outlook?
I don't. I I more lean towards I think Steven Pinker's book. I forgot the name of it. Someone in the audience knows the name of it. I believe that it is he kind of talks about how given everything how terrible everything may be, the problems that we face and the challenges that are ahead of us, given all that, if you really take a look at where we've come from, we've really come a long way. And things have actually gotten better in so many ways. So I think I'm more optimistic.
Okay, I hear you. Why? We may have drifted a little bit off topic, so maybe I should go back to the TikTok thing. Um, if someone wanted to keep TikTok, what do you think their what do you think their main reason would be for wanting to not have TikTok banned?
I think the most logical reason is that it's an established ecosystem, or yeah, I think that's the right word. It's an established product that has millions and millions of users on it, it's very difficult to ramp up something like this and to get users adopted to it and using it every day. There's a little bit of a luck that comes to it. So that could be a potentially really great reason to keep TikTok, because people feel like, so many people have invested so much of their time, so much of their energy creating those connections and posting content. And, with that investment, people don't want to give that up. So that's, I think, a really good reason to not give it up.
Gotcha. And in your opinion, you think they would be mistaken about this? Would this be a misjudgment?
So comparing that to, say, the other concerns, I think we could very easily, create a hierarchy where things like people's safety and misinformation would trump, that reason.
Okay.
Sorry, someone messaged me. Apologize.
It's okay. Okay. Well, I think you've changed your confidence and thought about it a little bit. So, and I think that's good. Any final thoughts on it?
No, I think that's good. Do you want to talk about Biden, or does anyone want to raise their hand and free me?
If anyone wants to raise their hand, I'll bring you up on stage. Otherwise,
I can talk about Biden.
Don't see anybody with their hand up yet.
Okay,
Come on, guys. Come on.
Let's talk about Biden until someone raises their hand, and I will graciously depart. So I don't find Biden's age is a concern, but it's not a concern of only Biden. Trump is close to the same age. Mitch McConnell is another great example. There are many public servants that are over 70 years old. And one of the cons is that it draws negative attention to our leaders in a way that potentially makes us look like we might be weak, which might open up a door for people to think that they could, potentially do something that could hurt Americans. So that's the con. But again, like, I don't feel like this is just a Biden issue. I think it's more of an issue of how old should some of our public servants be, because there is a decline that everybody goes through. And so yeah, that's kind of my position on it. I don't know if that's too wishy-washy, but
no, I think I understand what you're saying. So you're saying that everybody has a certain mental decline when they get up to the age that Biden is, and Trump for that matter.
Yep.
And perhaps we should reevaluate who we're electing for public officials because of this. And what he's going through is natural, but do you still think that he can perform the duties of his job? Is he still mostly together?
I think a good president isn't just him, but it's also the people that surround him and support him. I think that's, also something to consider. Plus, if anyone wants to make an argument, for putting in people who are 70 plus years old into these kinds of offices, I'm saying the number one reason why we shouldn't do that is because it brings negative attention. Trump, even if he wasn't 70, brings negative attention. So that's just a further argument as to why no one should vote for Trump.
Okay.
Just wanted to make that point.
Sure. I guess I'm going to try to tease a little bit of a stronger claim out of you, if you don't mind.
Sure, go for it.
Do you think that that Biden is still able to fulfill, let's say, 99% of his duties under his own mental cognition?
I don't know. I mean, I've seen a lot of I've seen him confused. I really think, put out to pasture where he can sniff whatever he wants.
I'm sorry.
Not a bad joke. I kind of like that in a way. Uh, I'm sorry. I'm just imagining like like a big grassy area with a bunch of like flowers, and he's just picking one by one, smelling them. I know that might not be what you had in mind, but that's what I pictured, and I was like, that sounds so great. I want to go out to a pasture and just pick some flowers and have a good time too.
Yeah, I would love to see him happy, shuffling away, randomly going different directions and sniffing whatever makes him happy. So
Win.
Where do we go from there?
well,
Okay.
let's see. Oh yeah, I mean, I pretty much covered all of it. Oh, it looks like we have people in the audience who want to come up, so this is maybe a good time.
Sure. Let's bring up the next contestant. Yeah, thank you for coming up, Dale.
Yep, no problem.
All right, who do we got next? Got a couple of people with their hands up. And of course, OBS is acting up again, but we'll just have to deal with it. There we go. Hey,
What's up,
Victor.
guys?
How's it going? Pretty good.
Talking about TikTok tonight, eh?
Talking about TikTok, talking about Biden. Yeah, whichever you want to talk about, really. Either or.
Well, I've got opinions about everything. First of all, I want to say, Tail, that was hilarious. I had to gather myself before I came up here. But the thing about TikTok I don't like is it's encouraging this attention-seeking, kind of desperate to do anything to get people's eyes on you kind of attitude in the culture. And it's causing people to act more and more crazy, even when the cameras aren't on, like the old American dream makes people think that they're 5 minutes away from celebrity. Well, now they think they're like just 30 seconds away, just turning around the corner and somebody's phone might be on them, and then they'll be famous. And it's making people act a little crazy, in my opinion. So I don't think shutting down people's ability to express themselves is a good idea. But in the case of TikTok, where it's not even, it definitely doesn't have American interest in mind. They have different rhythms for different countries. It's a propaganda platform where they allow you to create the propaganda, and then they just curate it and spit it back out at you. It's it's a brilliant propaganda tactic, but I think it's extremely unhealthy for us personally, and we should do what we can to at least discourage each other from using it.
Okay, gotcha. At least discourage each other from using it. That's the minimum we should do. What overall, what should we do? What's the best?
Well, I mean, if I was king, I would have got rid of it when people are dumping ice water on each other, and because that's just annoying.
Would this just be like all social media, or TikTok specifically?
Well, I mean, TikTok specifically is a foreign company with malicious or seemingly malicious intent, so they would be first on the list. The other social media companies have been already doing the same thing to us for a long time. I mean, people have been complaining about shadow banning and blocking of content on YouTube for, over a decade. And it's only now got to the point where they're willing to move to different platforms, and it's maybe too little too late.
Okay.
So, I would be a lot more strict on the way these companies are using their platforms to propagate their political ideologies, for sure.
Okay. So I think what I'm hearing is social media networks should remain neutral in how they operate.
Well, they should, yeah, they should strive to be, and where they're being biased, they should be, have to answer for it. When you make yourself the custodian of speech, then you're taking on a responsibility.
Okay, I hear you. How would you like this implemented? What's the strategy?
Well, I think if it could be demonstrated that there are political alignments with these media companies, then they should either be brought in for some kind of charges of tampering with, the electoral process for one thing. That's treason. That there should be some kind of threat for treasonous actions, for propaganda, and disabling people's ability to participate in the political process. I mean, if people were being stopped from voting because of their IDs, we'd be upset. But if we lie to them all day long, that's fine.
Okay. So if there, I think what you're saying is if there's some sort of evidence that can be presented in court that shows that they had this bias and were pushing a certain narrative, then there should be some legal consequences, prison time,
Yeah,
something like that.
I think depending on what their involvement with, their taking money, getting involved in political, you know, conspiracies. Depending on how far it goes, it could go as far as treason, in my opinion. Like some of these, some of these news guys have been caught faking footage and stuff. Like that's treasonous.
Okay. If someone were to disagree with you and take the opposite stance that that this strategy shouldn't be implemented, what do you think
Oh,
their
shoot.
number one reason would be?
They would. I mean, probably their love of fame themselves. Probably their own desire to want to make it rich through one of these social media platforms. That would be my suspicion.
Mhm.
I'd have to ask them what they would tell me. Would
Yeah.
that be true? I don't know.
Well, I think earlier, I forgot who I was talking to. They gave a couple pros, and it was freedom of speech and social connection. Uh, what about those two? Do you think those two might be something of value?
Well, there's certainly a value, but when they're being preyed on, and when the well's being poisoned from the outside, then somebody should try to clear out that way again and keep it safe.
Okay. So I think what I'm hearing is that the propaganda and the being misled, that is more important than the freedom of speech or the social connection, or it's a
Well, I
bigger
mean,
issue.
I don't think that calling one media company to account for their intentional misleading of people and perpetuation of propaganda is shutting down free speech. Like this isn't a blanket prescription. I'm talking about TikTok, and there's very particular conditions that TikTok is under that these other companies aren't.
Okay. You're referring to the ownership in a foreign country? Is that
Yes,
okay?
a country that's hostile to us.
Okay. If TikTok was owned by a U.S. company, would you flip sides? Would you want TikTok to keep going as is?
If it was owned by a U.S. company, then we would at least have to use some more decorum about how we handle them legally. I think is the fact that it's a foreign company that obviously doesn't have good intentions at heart. I think we can easily swing that axe and cut them off, and deal with the ones that Americans are creating in a more subtle, legal, and neighborly way.
What does that look like?
Well, like I said, if you could prove, for instance, that YouTube is taking money from political organizations, then they should be brought in to answer for it, be forced to stop, fire the people involved. Depending on how far it goes. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but there are certainly legal measures, and all the way up to treason, I think, with some of the things that have been accused against these people, the kind of messages that have been, tampered down, like, I'm not going to get into this whole thing, but, the vaccine debate was settled by the media, not by debate.
Mhm. Okay. I'm wondering on where this becomes an issue, like where you would draw the line. Like, let's say someone creates a social media and they start doing some things. What's the minimum amount of deception or whatever you want to call it
Well, I
that they
think
would?
don't be a hypocrite, like in my, personally, if I'm going to let one side speak about, let's say, the vaccine, then I'm going to let the other side speak. Otherwise, I can't be a hypocrite and I have to say nobody can speak about the vaccine.
Okay,
Be consistent.
I see. Okay. So if YouTube or TikTok, whichever one, if they were to just allow everybody to say, both sides are given fair opportunity, then you'd would you be okay with them rolling on, continuing on?
Yeah. I mean, that's the whole point is like on like YouTube, they're curating it for like their own political opinion from one side to the other mainly. Well, but this foreign company, you don't even know what they're trying to pump into the heads of our children. It's just safer to just cut it off. Get something else. The demand will create a supply. Just cut it off and we'll get something else.
Hypothetically, I'm not saying this is even possible. It's probably not. But in this imaginary world where we could know whether they're using an algorithm or if they're letting both sides state their case, it just however it lands, it lands. If we could see that they were just letting it land how it lands, would you be okay with allowing TikTok to continue?
I mean, I would have less of a case against it. I would still say, looking at how it seems to be being used, it's not a positive influence on people, and I would still discourage them from using it because it's like that quick little dopamine hit where even you falling down in your driveway can make you famous, and I just don't think that's a good message to send into the culture.
Hmm.
Like we would rather film a guy getting beat up than help him not get beat up.
Do you think that's the way most people?
I think maybe that's human instinct, but it's certainly getting worse with this culture that we have, where we have to get everything on film and get as many clicks out of it as we can.
Hmm.
It's
Okay.
like we're juicing the sincerity out of every moment of life.
Hmm. How do we bring back that sincerity? Is it eliminating social media? Is that the best
I don't
strategy?
think you can put the genie back in the bottle.
Hmm.
I think that it has to go back around the spectrum. People either realize the futility of it by their mastery of it, or maybe some barbarians come along and just knock our castle down.
Okay. Could you imagine a scenario where we might be able to put that genie back in the bottle?
No, I mean you could move to another country where they haven't unleashed it yet.
Hmm. Okay. All right. I think that's about all I got for questions. Got anything for me?
Okay. No, not really. Um, yeah, I can leave Biden alone. I think Tail beat the hell out of him well enough with that stinging burn. All right. You
All
have a good
right.
night. Thanks for hearing me.
Thank
See
you,
you, Victor.
Victor.
Thank you.
All right, we have another person in the audience. Old dirty atheist.
How's it going? Can't hear you. Do I have you muted or are you muted? I don't have you
It
muted.
was me. It was me. Hi, I'm
All right.
Gabs.
Hey.
Hey,
I
Beth.
changed my profile today, so
I like
being
it.
silly goose over here. Thank you. Yeah, so I wanted to speak on the issue. My account is now banned as of November. It'll be 2 years. There are reasons for that, especially cumulative bans over 2 years of content creation. I can answer questions about TikTok. I was in the content creator fund when it was the threshold was 10,000. I initially started my account as I was in an abusive situation with my mom, and I was trying to move out. I have a kid, and I turned it around into social issues and politics, and using my upbringing as a catalyst to give no excuse to people that were bigoted, promoted hate. My background is pretty radical, but I moved across the political spectrum from extreme rightism and being indoctrinated with right-wing Christian nationalism and Roman Catholicism over to being a leftist and apatheist. I don't necessarily care about it. I just want people to be good at the end of the day. Treat each other with, equality, kindness, shit like that. I'm a peace-loving, pot-smoking hippie. That was part of my platform. I talked about mental health. But mainly politics. And I didn't debate. I discussed it with people from the mindset that I used to be conservative. And I know what it's like to be in those shoes where you're in a small town and can't really get culture outside of it. But let me explain to you why your bigoted views that you aren't necessarily aware are bigoted are wrong, right? So that's the way, I guess.
Okay. So if I were to take a guess, and this is kind of a guess because you didn't really state it, but I would guess that you would want TikTok to remain open for people in the US to use.
Yes. And I'll give a quick explanation why. When I was protesting for the George Floyd protests, you could see live feeds on Facebook, and I did a live feed of the protest we did in what we colloquially call in the PC term is Southwest Detroit. That's Mexican town, if you're from here. There's a huge ICE presence because it's right next to the Ambassador Bridge, which bridges into Canada. We're number 2 in child trafficking, things like that. So there's Border Patrol, ICE, immigration agents, Border Patrol everywhere. So we not only picketed for George Floyd and BLM, we also picketed against ICE, things like that. Now, you noticed, if anybody remembers and actually paid attention, you started seeing media blackouts. And especially when you looked at the Russo-Ukrainian war, we were getting live updates from the citizens of what was going on faster than the news could put it out, right? And people were getting mad. If you look at the current protests, it's the same thing with, especially with the length of the thing going on in the war in Palestine and Israel. Now it's just time. We're pissed, and that said, right? It's interesting watching the news and suddenly you get no live feeds on Facebook. You see nothing about Washington, D.C. except what the news puts out. You don't get any live updates from your friends anymore living in other cities. You can't get those because they're not live, and the media does this intentionally. And I'm not saying it's a conspiracy. This is actually proven because it's, of course, if we all band together like 1984 or some shit, there's going to be a problem, right? So, there is a level of media control, and I think everybody can agree with that. To what degree we all believe in that is going to vary, and that's fine. We all have our own opinion. But it is shown. I protested in downtown Detroit on day 4. It was a peaceful protest. I left at 4 p.m. and people were coming in at 4 p.m. who were working or whatever. And I encountered a girl who said, "I'm not fucking leaving." And she looked just like me. And I was just there like, dude, come back tomorrow. We did the peaceful protest thing. Everyone had a great time. It was successful. Come back tomorrow. Right? No. And that night was the first night the riot police were pulled. And we're actually starting to fire rubber bullets and tear gas and things like that. And with my upbringing, I was raised by essentially white supremacists. So this is very opposite behavior of what I was raised to do. But I just want the freedom of speech to be able to know what's going on where the media isn't distorting it, pushing their narrative. Fox News, CNN, whatever. I don't give a shit. I go to Associated Press. I go to Reuters for my news updates. They're the most unbiased in the U.S. And I actually follow numerous news sources from outside because they have no reason to be biased, right? So I mean, it was interesting actually seeing in live action just the less and less and less and less live content you could see from
Okay.
different areas that are inflicted with war. So
Let's break this down a little further. So you said that there's like information. So with TikTok, you're able to get information out onto the web really quickly, get it to your friends and family. And also, this is right in line with freedom of speech. You're able to do this because in the United States, we have freedom of speech. Everybody's able to express what they want, get that information out there. If there was a negative thing to TikTok, and if there was a reason to why it should be banned, what would be the best reason?
well, so being in the punk community, I've actually in my past I've doxed white supremacists. I don't like gross people. And there is a very dark underbelly of pedophiles that goes, a lot of it goes, or P3dos, I apologize. It goes unnoticed, it goes untreated. A lot of times, like the bans that TikTok would hand out were so random, and they would not listen to the more severe ones. You know, they would listen to the ones like, for example, I got banned for literally rickrolling my friend on my live for 7 days. Now, there are people out there talking to young girls, and I don't like that they're trying to make this a family-friendly app, right? Now, the right wing actually came out with something called Clapper, right? And it's actually, if you open it, it's literally the exact same fucking algorithm, as TikTok. I apologize for my language. Same algorithm, same setup. You know, there's some differences, right? Like you can monetize from the get, people can tip you. There are some benefits to using it, but it is very, very, very right wing, and that has a deeper underseed and underbelly, a deeper seated underbelly than even TikTok has. Whether it's P3DO, whether it's abuse, whether it's like incel, you know, red pill, blue pill type stuff. There's a lot of white Christian nationalism, especially. If you notice, Darth Dawkins has moved over there because of the Christian debates he can get. A lot of the Christians in here have gone over there too. So there's a huge Christian presence on TikTok. And so much so that like even my kid has seen some YouTube shorts, like just he had my phone in the car and I hear things about Jesus and he tells me he believes in Jesus. Now I allow him to, you see my name, Old Dirty Atheist, right? I allow him to believe this, but there's a lot of stuff that's put out there that is misinformation. I don't like that they allow 13-year-olds and up, kind of like Discord. Like, you know, of course, in this server, we have to have 18 and up. You know, I think places like this should be more monitored, kind of like porn websites, you know. And yeah, a 13-year-old's going to say, yeah, I'm 21, and then, you know, jerk it. But, right. But the point is, you know, if there's a way we can minimize it, and I'm not even saying like the whole thing of like get our IDs and like we have to like, you know, enter our, right? But I just think that the websites themselves have ways to get about this. The parents should be better too. There's accountability on them too. You know, like with my Xbox, for example, I make it so that nobody can chat with my child. Like I have all audio settings turned off, all chat settings turned off, all purchase settings turned off, like any access to the outside world he cannot get. He can still play online,
Okay.
but like it's just going to be no access, right? So I think there's a lot of accountability on the parents too. And
Yeah.
you know, with
Yeah,
parents,
of course.
I'll end it here with parents throwing their kids on a tablet and letting them do whatever. That's a huge problem. That's a really huge problem. So,
Okay.
you know, I say it's more curated for the adult mind and they curate it better, right? I think it could be a better place and it would be more adult.
Let's
and
compare
able
these
to-
two things. So we got information that you can get out there, freedom of speech. Those are kind of the pros here. And the cons might be some of these random bans, so they kind of might ban whoever they want, maybe just because they don't like the person, who knows. We got misinformation, so people can put out whatever they want because it's social media. That information might be misleading, it might lead other people to conclusions that are false. And then we have children may misuse it, they might be addicted, they might be watching bad things on that platform. So why is the information and the freedom of speech more important than the negatives?
For me, and I say that there has to be a level of bipartisan middle ground in regards to like the radical, open use of internet. Like we call I joke that I was the queen of the 2003 Yahoo chat rooms, right? I should not have been in those chat rooms, and my mom didn't give a shit, right? And this is like Chris Hansen shit, okay? And so I do what I can as a parent to monitor my son's use of the internet. I know what it is. I know the terrible stuff about it, the absolute worst. And so I know what I need to do, at least at this point, to keep him from that. And I'm willing to do whatever I can. But the problem is the overwhelming amount of parents just going, here you go, and letting them do whatever they want. And it's sad. It is something that I don't like, but it is what it is. There's nothing we can do about that. But at the end of the day, if I'm not aware of a war that could affect my son's future, right? If I'm not getting the truth, right? And I'm duped or whatever, right? It doesn't come out to what I was told it would be, right? The world turns into a shithole. It's not about me anymore. It's about my son, period. Right now, that doesn't mean that we should, button up the internet and make it, kid friendly. What I'm saying is freedom of speech is important for us to be able to grow sociologically as a society. We're not even 100 years out from civil rights. We're not even, we're only 104 years out from women getting the right to vote, right? When you look at the grand scheme of time, right, as humans have existed, this is a drop in the bucket of human existence, right? 60 years, like gay marriage was only within the last 15, 20 years, right? This is nothing compared to the expanse of humanity. And these are things that we have morally, for the most part, and yes, there is debate on a lot of it, but there's, morally, we see that, like we used to burn people for being witches, right? And this was 400 years ago, 500 years ago. Right? That's a drop in the bucket, right? But we sociologically grow and realize, oh no, this is not good. We realize this is not doing good. And especially with medical advancements and things. I worked in healthcare for 13 years.
I hear two underlying things here. And you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think what I'm hearing is when you say information and freedom of speech, those are important to you because you value truth.
Absolutely.
Is that the underlying value? All right.
Oh,
I got
absolutely.
it right then. Okay. And then also you mentioned civil rights because of freedom of speech. And I think the underlying
I'm saying sociological progress. That's the valuable thing.
Okay. That's the valuable thing. And what's underlying that is a desire for fairness, for all people to be treated fairly, right?
Sure. Absolutely.
Okay. Gotcha.
I was raised, and I'll tell you, TLDR, my family grew up in a town a quarter of a mile from the Grand Dragon of the KKK of Michigan. They were not active members, but they could remember. My mom actually remembers their neighbor having a cross burnt in their yard. His name was Bobby Miles. I like to infantilize him. My family is incredibly racist. I'm the black sheep because I strayed away from that. I never agreed with it enough. I never agreed with it, but I agreed with it enough to not get my ass beat. At 15, I was on the step team when Stomp the Yard was huge, and my mom told me to quit pretending to be an N-word because I like music. I was going to be a music major in college. And so yeah, I went to college. I went to an urban area here in Detroit, and I got some culture. And the one time I used the N-word as a pejorative, that was the light switch for me to start changing. I recognized what I did wrong. I was 18. I was stupid. I was indoctrinated. And I slowly moved across the political spectrum from that to libertarianism to moderate, mid-view, Democrat, liberal, and leftist within reason, right? I'm not out here saying like we should burn the town down, we should have anarchy, no government, blah, blah, blah. I do say ACAB because people don't understand that when we say ACAB, it's complacency. Right. It's not that all cops are bad. I thanked cops at the George Floyd protest for keeping us safe. They were doing their job. Right. As a punk, you don't do that. Right. But I have enough respect to go, these people did their job correctly, and I will thank them for doing that. Right. And so it's the idea that when two cops are riding together and the one cop acts like, shoots somebody over use of power and the other cops does nothing to stop it. That's complacency. That's when all cops are bastards, right? And we've seen stations purport this, and they protect it, and they get paid administrative leave. And it's just people have a hard time, I think, putting themselves in that mindset. Like, what would it be like? And I'll never know that experience. I'm white. The only like marginal communities I belong to is that I'm a single mom and I'm a white single woman, right? I still have privilege, right? Now, God forbid if I were found with a fifth of alcohol in my car and I started acting out like, I would probably maybe be tased, arrested, put in the back of the car, and done. I wouldn't have been shot. God forbid a white woman with a child gets shot by the cops because she was drunk. They would lose it would be media mayhem. But then they purport with, African Americans and other people of color, these people are drug addicts. They're this, they're that. And people wouldn't know. I used to be a fucking alcoholic.
I think we've gone down
So,
a really interesting
yeah,
tangent. And
yeah,
I would love to
I don't
talk
mean
to you.
I ramble a lot. I ramble a lot, but the point is my upbringing is very unique in the fact that compared to now, I'm 180 against the spectrum of what I was raised to be.
Oh.
So yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to talk.
Leftist.
I'd love to talk to you another time about how you got from like that side to this side. Unfortunately, we probably don't have much more time right now, but yeah, I really would love to talk to you about that though.
Yeah, I apologize for talking too much, but yeah,
It's okay.
I'll add you and we'll talk.
Thanks,
Sounds
Babs.
good. I love it.
Thanks. Not a problem. Have a good night, guys.
All right, let's bring up Miles. I think he's the only one with his hand up right now. Hey, Miles, what's up?
Hello, can you hear me?
Can hear you great.
Great. Yeah, I was having trouble with my earlier. Thank you for bringing me up and allowing me to chat about this. What I would like to say about TikTok is I've been on TikTok for a bit over a year. I got on it last year because my spouse was saying that it was get banned, and I thought, you know what? I think I want to kind of see what it's all about before it gets banned. So I got on it. Now I'm a boomer. I'm 60 years old, and what I'm about to say is both a good thing and a bad thing, in my opinion. It's a good thing that ordinary people, just like you and me, can open an account and start making videos, anything under the sun, and they can get a following and an audience, and they can monetize it. I think that's great. But then that's also a bad thing too, because you've got a lot of people on that platform saying a lot of stuff that just ain't true, or that any ordinary person can sometimes just walk outside and debunk it. Case in point was during this last eclipse. Prior to the eclipse, you had people talking about the moon and how weird it looked. And I ain't never seen the moon looking like that. And this is not normal, not usual. And it's like, hey man, you probably never looked at the moon prior. You take a look. It's not anything prior. I mean, the amount of these creators who just don't do basic research is just, it's horrible. Now, I'm not saying that it does not have its place. There are times where one creator will debunk another creator, back and forth. That's all fine, and that's all entertaining. And in some cases, it's informative. But to try to filter through all the misinformation that's hard. But I'm going to continue to watch and enjoy it as much as I can, and that's all I'd like to say.
Okay. Okay, I gotcha. So I think what I'm hearing is that there's some good things. So anyone can create an account, anyone can go on there, and that's cool and awesome. People can monetize it so they can use it as a living. Those might be things that are good about it. Things that are bad about it, there's misinformation, so people are saying things that are untrue, misleading others to believe in things that are false. And with all this being said, what's your stance on it? Should it go away or should it stay?
I think it should stay. I think it should stay because I'm not necessarily convinced that it's being used as propaganda because I see a lot of Republican things on it. I see a lot of Democratic things on it. Being a atheist Christian debate aficionado, I see things, atheist things, and I think I don't think I'm seeing a lot of propaganda that surrounds that. I would be interested in knowing what people's evidence is that this platform is full of propaganda. Because I don't know. I might be blind, but I'm just not seeing it.
Okay.
But I think it should. I think it should. I think it should stay. I do have a couple other apps that are like it. It's not quite the same because if it gets banned, these creators are just going to go someplace else.
Okay, I gotcha. So you want it to stay, and I think the reason you want it to stay is because you don't see the drawbacks. I mean, you said you see misinformation, but maybe that's not as important to you. It sounded
I think
important.
the pros outweigh the cons. Maybe it should come with a warning label. Warning, warning, warning. Everything on this platform has not been verified. Things like that.
I kind of like that.
There are some creators who I guess have been caught, not saying things that are not correct. So they'll say something. They'll say, "Well, for entertainment purposes only, I'm going to tell you this fact. The moon isn't really the moon. It's this thing up in the sky that's only 2,000 miles away, and we weren't there in 1969." Things like that. I mean, there are some people who do say that, but yeah, it should just come with a warning label. I think the pros outweigh the cons.
Okay, I gotcha. So what would be the pro, or what's the most important pro for keeping it?
The most important pro is, for instance, people like me. I mean, I like speech impediment. I've gone on there. I've seen creators who who have the same issue and are dealing with the same challenges that I am. Now, when I was growing up, okay, 40 some odd years, there was no real way to network with people who had your same problem, issue, and like, for instance, on this platform here, there's a completely safe space where people who stutter like me can go on and speak as long as they want. as they need. And so that platform, TikTok, allows people who have problems or issues, things that they're dealing with, to connect with other people who are also dealing with things, which I think is a great advantage. Something I didn't have.
Were you done speaking? I didn't know if you were done or not, but I'm going to assume you are since you muted.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah. When you see me mute, I am done.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
I should say when you see me muted, if you want to ask me more questions, I will unmute. If not, you may put me back to the audience. I don't want to take up everyone's time here. Sure, there's probably other who'd like to chime in, but thank you for allowing us to air our views on this in a public place like this.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for participating. I appreciate it, Miles. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Yeah, we have no one in the audience right now.
Yep.
Do you want to remind them? Maybe we got some new people in.
Oh, we got Corsi. Yeah.
All right. Bringing up Corsi.
Hey, how's it going?
I wanted to hold on. I actually wanted to come up earlier when you were talking about Biden and his intellectual state.
Sure.
Rather than worrying about what his intellectual state is, or personally, because we don't have any medical information on something like that yet. We want to, but we don't. I would prefer to see and talk about getting legislation passed so that in case a president, in any time from here on, actually is found out to not be mentally stable enough in what is going to happen in that case, and what can the American people do to ensure that the position of the presidency is secure with someone who has their complete mental faculties.
Okay.
So, like, dismissing him in favor of the vice president in the same way that, like, if the president dies, the vice president takes over as president.
Okay. Gotcha. What would this legislation look like? What would it exactly entail?
Well, when the president loses their mental faculties and it is given to Congress in documentation that says this person is no longer fit to be in a leadership position, they can then vote to declare him incapable of holding the position and thus remove him from office and put the vice president up. Now, the details of it, I'm not a congressman. I ain't going to pretend to be one. I ain't going to pretend to know exactly how it needs to be worded, but something along those lines just to secure the presidency.
Yeah, no worries on how it's worded. I'm not a congressman either. How would Congress get this info about whether they're mentally together or not?
Maybe Congress could request a psychological exam for the president in case the concerns are brought up. But again, that's just going to be part of the legislation on how this would all go about.
Okay, gotcha.
Words are tough. I'm still in pain from my surgery.
Oh, I'm sorry, man. You all right?
I had my gallbladder out a little over a week ago, so even stretching still can hurt, and it's.
Gotcha. Hope you feel better, man.
Oh, I'll be fine. My gallbladder is fully out. I am a little bit lighter now, so I don't weigh as much, but that's for that reason, and not me losing weight. I'm still a big fat man. And anybody
So-
who says I shouldn't be fat shaming myself, you're basically telling me I should be ashamed of being fat.
I'm just gonna move on past that and pretend like
It
you
was a
didn't
joke.
say it.
It was a joke. It was a joke.
I know. Um,
I'm a comedian. Don't worry. If I made you smile, it was worth it.
so we got
Back
this
to the
legislation.
actual topic in Biden.
back to the topic. So we got this piece of legislation. Congress can request like an evaluation, and then they get the evaluation. They can look at it and make him not the president anymore. Basically, I think that's what you're saying. And is this just something that happens? Like, let's just say Congress is like thinks maybe something's going on, so they request it, and then it, gets sent to them. Or is it
Well, there's
like
already enough people having concerns about Biden right now. So, like in this case, when the people are having such a concern, and there's a rumor floating around that there's a concern, but like Congress could be able to pass it, even if it's just to appease the public. So if it comes back says no, he's good to go, that gets like not published to everybody, but like not the exact findings, but you could say it has been found that the president is within his mental faculties to continue to be the president.
Okay, gotcha. Is there any potential issues with this particular piece of legislation? Any flaws that you can think of?
Oh, absolutely. So like it could be like they could throw it at the president just for the sake of it to disrupt what he's doing, to just rile him up, rile the president up a little bit. And
Okay.
that would end up looking bad. So you could use it for nefarious purposes, but in general, it might not be a bad thing to have on the back burner.
Okay. So this wouldn't be something to fix this issue no matter what. It would just be one more tool in the arsenal. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, gotcha.
Do you like the idea? Or do you think it's like, oh my God, what is this guy doing?
If you want my opinion on it, I will answer. I think in theory it might be a good idea, but the flaw that I might have identified is Congress tends to be very politically divided, and it seems like always the Democrats are always siding on this side, Republicans are always on that side, and there's no commingling whatsoever. So I would imagine that no matter what, like let's say, we got Democratic president now. I'd imagine if it's a Democratic Congress, they'll always vote against the evaluation. And if it's a Republican Congress, they would always vote for it no matter what. So maybe that makes it not as useful. I don't know.
Perhaps. And yeah, that's a good point, but it's something.
It is something. I agree.
That's pretty much all I wanted to get up, because when you were talking about it earlier, I'm like yelling in the side chat, hey, let me up. This is actually important to this current conversation. But we ended up going with Victor. But that's pretty much all I wanted to bring up.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I don't really have any more questions on that. So
Thanks,
Cool.
Horsey.
No problem.
all right. And now there was none.
We have Fallen. Do you want to talk to him? It's okay. It'll be okay. This one will be okay.
all right. Hello.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
So I just wanted to interact with the original question. I would put forward the proposition that TikTok should be banned. I do have a formal argument in the form of modus tollens to provide for this, which I will share now.
Okay. Have at her.
I'll put it in the chat to the right. I just cobbled it together right now.
All right.
All right. There it is. Now, I'm sure you'd like the argument for P2, which I will also provide. Basically, it just comes out to the form of, if I can show evidence that TikTok results in greater anxiety, depression, and misnomers without benefits to balance, then TikTok does result in those things. P2, I show that research. Conclusion, it does result in that. Here's the research. I'll post it right here.
Okay.
And now I would ask, are there any premises that anyone rejects in the first argument or the supporting argument for P2?
I mean, maybe. I don't know. So if TikTok results in greater amounts of misnomers, anxiety, depression without benefits to balance, we should ban TikTok. Okay. So basically what this is saying is that if TikTok induces more anxiety and depression than any potential benefits, then it should be banned. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And
Instead of being a normative operator there, just saying under your values, you would desire for something, given this descriptive knowledge, you would desire something like that to be banned.
Okay. Should we ban everything that may result in anxiety and depression without benefits to balance?
Under my view, I would, right? I have those norms. Do you have those norms? I mean, we already do that with many things like drugs, right? There are many benefits to a lot of drugs. But the overall result is something we normatively stand against. We should also keep in mind that the majority of TikTok users are children. Their capability of conceiving what the outcomes of spending a lot of time on TikTok would be dubious at best. And even for adults, there are good pieces of research I could show showing that they will suffer from addiction to these types of social media. And it likely would result in better outcomes if we restricted these.
Are there any exceptions? Is there an exception to this rule of banning things that induce anxiety and depression?
I mean, because you didn't mention counter benefits, yeah, if there's some other reason that fulfills some more important part of our norms, like a reduction in rights violations or something like this, then yes, those would be exceptions, which is why I specified that there aren't counter benefits in this regard.
Okay. If they're including these counter benefits, is there any exceptions there?
Yeah, so it's just going to rely on my norms. So for example, there could be things that result in an overall drop in utility, right? Meaning there's just more suffering in the world, but I would prefer that in the world because of a reduction in rights violations. I don't know if this is like a 21 plus chat, but to use a really grotesque example, let's imagine a gang of 10 men about to rape a woman, right? Now, presumably shooting those 10 men as opposed to letting them gang rape that woman would actually result in a drop in utility. But I would prefer that regardless because it's just a rights violation that I have a strong value against because I'm a threshold deontologist. And I would suspect the vast majority of people in here are not pure negative utilitarians. And so under their norms, in those cases, they would actually prefer that we shoot them all to stop them, if that was the only way to stop them.
Okay. I see what you're saying. I'd like to propose another example. Let's say there's a radio show and they put out a lot of news that it doesn't even matter if it's true. For this example, let's say that's not true. And it induces a lot of anxiety and depression, doesn't really have too many benefits. You know, maybe some people like watching it, listening to it, whatever. Is that something that we should ban?
Well, there's more particulars that could be specified that might cause my view to turn, but from what you've described so far, that does sound like something under my norms that I would want to ban. Now, even though that might sound strange to some people, because they might be thinking in their head, but like imagine pragmatically banning something like Fox News. Well, the difference is it's hard to actually determine that whether or not all the propositions you put forward would actually be true about the radio show in real life. However, in this case with TikTok, I did provide the evidence for the descriptive claims in question.
Okay. Do you want to talk about the evidence?
Sure. So we could just go into the research. Essentially, this was a retrospective cohort on Chinese students that consumed various amount of TikTok per day. And we were trying to draw general associations of memory loss and anxiety, depression, and stress in their environment. And no, there was no reverse causation in here for anybody that's asking, because when we draw the meta-regression in the form of, what's it called? Telling students to use more TikTok, that has the same effect. Meaning it's not that depressed kids are drawn towards the TikTok, right? There actually is an association between giving them more TikTok and having more anxiety, depression, and memory loss. So, I mean, I don't know how much time you have. I can go into the details of the methodology for hours, but long
Well,
story
help me-
short, what's up?
I was going to say, help me just understand the basic methodology. How did they conduct the test?
Yeah, so it
research?
was a retrospective cohort. So they were running examinations of like various students in China from various schools, by running surveys, by having various proctors in the region ask questions directly and or run observations, because it was a meta-regression, so there were multiple variates used here. And long story short, the vast majority of it is just using surveys, asking how many hours of TikTok do you use a day?
Gotcha.
And then
Okay.
asking other questions like, how sad are you often? Like, how many of this, and this events do you experience in your life? That sort of thing. And the correlation is pretty clear.
Okay. So let's say that this research was valid and all true, and these Chinese students, the ones who use TikTok, saw all these negative things occur. What does that say? Does that mean that that's true for children in other countries?
Well, it's certainly true for children in China, right? Now, unless you're unclear on whether or not American students or something like this would experience the same effects, I wouldn't need to provide any other research. But if you'd like, I can also show smaller scale research in the States or in Canada or something like this.
Yeah, I guess I would wonder if different cultures would use TikTok differently. I don't know if that's the case. Maybe it is, maybe it's not.
Well, I'll tell you right now, there was actually a calculation of the overall average time use of TikTok from students in China, and it was actually an average of 20 minutes less than users in the US of the same age range, which is not that big of a difference, but it's noticeable.
Okay, interesting.
And of course, it did also result in memory loss, which I can't even tell you what the downstream effects of that would be on economies in the future, right? And it's not even short term; it's actually long. It's long term, short term memory loss, if that makes sense. So, like for a long time, they will have that short term memory loss. Now, there are remedies to this through like CBIT therapy, for example, but are we gonna like start administering that kind of therapy to try to counteract the effects of TikTok or something? That seems pretty unpragmatic to me.
Okay. With regards to this, to the conclusion of this study, that TikTok, or actually, to your conclusion that TikTok should be banned, how confident are you that this should be done?
How confident am I that it should be done, like under the normative operator?
Whichever operator you want to use. It's up to you.
Oh, under my view, I'm about as confident that this should happen as I am in a railway being built in California. Like, the stats are pretty clear on what the economic benefits would be, what the overall effects on depression rates would be over large scale populations. I'm confident enough to take the position and put an argument forward for it.
Okay. What could you learn or witness that would get you to drop 1 percentage point of confidence?
Just some counter research suggesting that there would be, some kind of counter benefit to TikTok being present, something that's deontically outweighing the norms here.
Okay. What might one of those look like? What's an example?
Maybe some research suggesting that TikTok users compared to non-TikTok users experienced improvements in categories that I just value, like depression and anxiety, for example. But since that's very likely not the case with this research, unless there was research showing that this research is incorrect and someone pointed out an error in the methodology in this one, it would likely have to be something else, like TikTok users are somehow more likely to experience like economic safety in their future, or have less anxiety when socializing or something like this. Although the funny thing is, I suspect those things will actually turn in the opposite direction if we were to conduct some kind of meta-regression on that. So.
Okay. If there was a study that came to the conclusion that overall joy and happiness, pleasure, something like that, if that was increased, would that lead you to drop 1 percentage?
That would do more than a drop of 1 percentage point. That would actually make me agnostic on whether or not I'd want to get rid of TikTok at that point. And I'd no longer be taking the position that I'd want to get rid of it.
Okay.
Do you have any thoughts on this, Snow? Because I've noticed you've been a bit quiet there.
It is not my show tonight. It's Pierce's. But I
Oh,
appreciate the segue in.
let me see if anyone in the chat to the right has TikTok use disorder. Not sure what that sentence is trying to convey. Takes long, hard draw off cigarette. Yeah. If anyone in the audience has a rejection of any of the premises, I invite you to text right now so that I could respond to it.
Well,
We also
that's
have Odin as well.
yeah. Let's bring up Odin.
Thank you, Fallen, for coming up.
Thanks for coming up.
Yeah, sure. Take care.
You too. All right.
How's it going, Odin? What's up?
Hello. What's up, guys?
Hello.
I just wanted to say that I don't think TikTok should be banned because, like, responsibility should be on parents or the people themselves. You know, like they should not use TikTok as escape or some kind of like, you know, it's an entertainment platform and it should be for it, you know, and nothing
Okay.
more. Yeah,
Okay.
that's it.
That's it. Okay. So it should be just used for entertainment. It is the responsibility of the parents. So I think what I'm hearing is like if I were to compare it to something else, it would be like pornography shouldn't be banned for everybody because children might somehow gain access to it. Therefore, it should remain available because it's just another form of entertainment. Is that kind of like what you're saying?
Well, I think when in case of, I mean, yes, but like short answer is yes, but like like pornography is necessary, I think, for many reasons. It's really valuable. Uh, because it's basically like restrains some of the people from acting on bad behavior, perhaps. Um,
Interesting.
yeah,
Would you want pornography to be banned?
no,
No, okay. Okay, sorry, I thought that's what you were saying for a moment there.
no.
Okay, you're probably saying the opposite. Sorry, I'm having a little trouble hearing you. Let me turn your volume up a
Yeah,
little bit.
sorry, my bad.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see reason why TikTok should be banned. I mean, it's really great platform for many people to uh, advertise things, and like even like it's really good platform.
Okay.
Like
Okay.
it's really valuable for many reasons.
What would be, if there was a best reason to why it should be banned, what would that reason be?
Um, I guess moderation, like bad moderation, basically people getting away with like really fucked up shit on the platform. I think one of moderation is one of the valuable things, and if
Okay.
like there is bad moderating team, or maybe algorithm is bad and people seeing really fucked up shit, like some like you know
Okay. So I think what you're saying is if there's potentially harmful acts being done on the platform or things that are said, or if there's misinformation, that would be something, a reason to potentially ban it. But
yeah.
the entertainment value, the kind of outweighs the negatives in this particular circumstance.
um yes, I think it's the value it gives for many people, like whether it's going to be entertainment or business. I mean, uh, I think it gives more value, and really depends on the platform's stability, um like whether it's gonna be like moderated well or bad. Um,
And why is the entertainment value more important than the risk of like misinformation, for example?
um, I'm not sure the.
Or
Okay, I can't really give you statistical data or something like that, but
no, I'm
um,
more interested in the value. So kind of like you value the entertainment. I'm not, maybe
well,
can help me understand why the entertainment part is important. Why is that an important aspect to TikTok, to you wanting TikTok to remain?
well, okay, I don't think like entertainment is necessarily main thing. You know,
Okay. What is the main
I think
thing?
it's more for many people. It's kind of like, I guess entertainment is main thing, but also like business side of thing is like really big on TikTok. Like many people are using as like promotional platform nowadays.
Okay.
Uh, they like promoting their OnlyFans or maybe their business, and
Okay. Gotcha. Why is this important to why is this an important reason to have TikTok remain available?
So ask again, sorry.
Why is business and promotion and that aspect of TikTok, why is that an important reason why it should remain available to the public?
Um, like I said, like it's just the. I mean, if we're gonna say that, if we asking questions about like TikTok getting banned, uh, like we might as well as ask about other platforms. because I don't think there is anything exclusive to TikTok.
Hmm.
I guess it's kind of addictive, like this short high like short videos which gives basically high dopamine rush or something like that, you know. It could be
Yeah.
addictive like as a behavior. uh, so but like it, you could say, or you could make same argument about other platforms.
Yeah. Yeah. And is this addictive thing, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I mean, it depends your social status, I guess. Like it depends how stable you are and how much you value entertainment, you know. Like
Hmm.
if you are like retired person and you just you have all the money or whatever, you are stable in life, and then you just want to chill and have a, you know, do whatever you want, then at that point then I don't think a issue. But if you are someone who's not stable, don't have a really good income, it could be really bad. Or
Hmm.
you might come across some video that might motivate you, and you know,
Okay.
uh,
I
you
hear
can
you.
like
So we've kind of talked a lot about the negative things here and why certain things might not be good. Um, I'm not sure. I mean, I've heard you say entertainment as a positive thing. I've heard you say business and promotion as a potential positive thing. I'm wondering what the most important piece to, and it can be TikTok, it can be any social media. Perhaps you said we should look at all the social medias, in the same light. What is the most important reason to keep a social media like TikTok? What's the best thing about it?
um, in my opinion, I think it's really good way to like interact. It's like other social media, but I guess like if I say something that is exclusive to TikTok, I guess it would be like really good advertising platform for business. Like you can
Okay.
easily go viral if you abuse algorithm properly.
Okay. I kind of heard two things. At first, I thought you were going to say the benefit of like having social interaction, and then you said advertising. Are those different or the same? I got a little confused.
Well, so at first I was gonna say the entertainment and like engaging, like social engagement and all that,
Hmm.
but then I realized that it's not really exclusive to TikTok, you know.
Right.
Uh, so I guess like if we are like naming one reason which is could be like, you know, exclusive to TikTok, that's something that is TikTok is doing better than other platforms, then I think that it will be that like for small businesses to basically promote their business, and individuals may, I guess, like their Patreon or their platform to, you know, basically
Gotcha.
like it's good promotion thing.
Okay. And this business advertising promotion, why is this a good reason to keep TikTok around? Why is this valuable?
Well, as we talked, there is other reasons too, but it's it's really helpful. I don't see downsides. Why we should, you know, like I just don't see like why should we ban TikTok? I guess as we like talked about about moderation and you know, like maybe there is bad bad videos which might have gone viral and how not moderated properly. Those things are bad sides, and the business is good side to promote your business or self, like maybe motivational things or something like that. as a good thing. Like it depends.
Okay. I think I'm going to try to summarize it, and you can tell me if I'm right or wrong. So it sounds like you
Okay.
got like there's entertainment value, which there holds some sort of importance. You have the social interaction, which holds some importance. You got the business advertising, which holds some importance. And those are all positive, good things about TikTok. And you're weighing that against possibly bad moderation that leads to misinformation on the platform, and it can potentially be addictive in a bad way. And that these negatives are not greater than the positives that I listed earlier.
Yeah.
Okay, we're on the same page?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. What would it take for you to go from the positives are more outweigh the negatives to the negatives are outweighing the positives? What could you learn or discover that would lead you there?
I think positives outweigh negatives. Like really, like I think it's not even close to each other.
Okay.
As I said, I'm not sure about numbers, like, but it seems that way, that positives are way, like, it's like benefit you gain rather than some, like, maybe some bad moderation. At this point, I think they have a stable team, TikTok, because like they become really big platform, right? So I think they have really good and stable moderation team, and like it's to get something leaked or maybe don't identify some bad video or whatever, like some leak or whatever, is really the risk of that is really low. So
Okay. I'm gonna run
yeah,
this.
I think ratio is pretty good in terms of like risk benefit.
At risk of potentially harming rapport, I don't want to harm rapport with you. I love you, man. But I'm going to ask it again. It's the same exact question. You may have
Maybe I
drifted off
I'm
here.
sorry.
Yeah. What could you learn or discover that could lead you to the conclusion that the drawbacks are bigger than the positives, than the good things about TikTok?
Like what should uh learn from
Yeah. Yeah, what could you find out that would lead you to a different conclusion?
Oh, okay. Well, like, I guess like consistency of bad moderation. I guess like they like real like many examples of bad moderation, like many videos getting leaked, really harmful stuff being promoted by algorithm, something like that, I guess.
Okay. Okay, gotcha. So if you were to see more stuff on TikTok that shouldn't be on TikTok, in your opinion, and
Yeah, like
yeah,
mm, yeah, like things like 18 plus things, basically like it's because like kids watching it, right? So if something that is sexual or whatever, and those things are getting leaked or not moderated properly, and it's promoted to, or it's on like kids feed, like TikTok
Hmm.
feed.
yeah.
Yeah, if there's something like that constantly, then I guess at that point.
All right. I don't think I have too many other questions for you, but I do want to ask: have you reevaluated your stance on TikTok? Have you thought about it more as we talked about it?
um Not really. I mean, I think I have reasonably uh good look on TikTok. It's good platform overally. Obviously there is bad sides to it, bad side of the TikTok, but in general, it's really helpful for many people, and as a entertainment value is still really good.
Right. I appreciate you, coming up and talking with me. We will
Yeah.
hopefully we'll sneak in the last couple of people here.
Thank you. I mean,
Right.
if I could address maybe Fallen's the like syllogism,
So,
it would be pretty nice.
if you want to do that, I think we can go ahead and do that in the comments, or we can wait until the next show.
Yeah, I will do it in side chat. It's okay.
Okay.
There you go.
Thank you.
Yep. And on this show, the side chat. Actually, I'm not even going to say it. I shouldn't say that. All right, we'll bring the next person up. Hey, how's it going?
Hey, Pierce. You can call me James if you like.
All right, James. What's up, James?
Not much, man. Enjoying your show, bro, and props to you. You do a really good SE. I like you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, Sapir Ode asked me what I was going to talk about, and I could either stay on topic or I can bring up a different theme about the existence of God or not. If you want to keep talking about TikTok, I've got my side as well. I'm a side of not banning it, more on like Odin's. Was it Odin? The last guy you're talking to? Odin?
Odin,
I don't want to
sure.
mess up his name.
Whichever.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm on his side, so it'd be very similar to your discussion with him.
Okay. Then if it's going to be very similar, let me try to recap what he
Yeah.
said, and you can tell me if you disagree with anything. So, he said that TikTok, the benefits are social interaction. It's a good business opportunity for advertising. It has entertainment. I don't know if I said that. Any possible bad things about it would be sometimes the moderation isn't as good. There's misinformation. It can be addictive. And the positives outweigh the negatives. Is that kind of your stance there?
For the most part, yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
And I can see some negatives, like if a child is not supervised at home, it can be detrimental to them. However, like that is not, the public's responsibility to deny the rest of society something that is entertaining for them, and they can be using it in a resourceful manner. Why should other people suffer for other people's inadequacies to be monitored or monitor themselves?
Okay. If you were to flip sides, if you were to go from TikTok should not be banned, remained online in the US, to TikTok should be banned, let's get rid of it immediately, what does that path from there to there look like? How do you get there?
How do I get there, or how does it happen? Maybe I don't understand your question.
How do you get there? What could lead you to that conclusion?
How would I get to agree to banning it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess if it was detrimental to our society, meaning like there was things being leaked or stolen from and used against people unknowingly, like I guess the conspiracy of what China's watching us kind of thing, that kind of stuff. Like if that was validated and it could be backed up with circumstantial evidence that that is the case, then sure. If our security was at risk, where our infrastructure could be broken into, and what's it called, whatever, online breaking in of stuff. If that could be the problem, then yeah, maybe it should be banned.
Okay. How could we find out if that was the case or not?
I think people that are skilled in cybersecurity. If cybersecurity has the ability to recognize that it is a danger and they cannot stop it, those people are trained and knowledgeable of that kind of aspect. I'm hoping and thinking.
Okay. So we should kind of defer to the experts. Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
I would, because I'm not very knowledgeable on cybersecurity, right? Like, I use the best thing. Well, I use what I have access to protect myself and make sure I'm not, doing things that are, detrimental to breaking into my online banking kind of things like that. And so, yeah, I'm not
Okay.
very knowledgeable. So I'm hoping that those who are would be like, you know what? Hey, we can't stop this, so we need to shut it down.
If a cybersecurity person, or are we talking? We're not talking about one person. We're talking about like a collective.
Yeah,
Is that kind of okay?
system. It's yeah.
If they were to be mistaken about something, how would that occur? How do you think could that happen? Actually, maybe I'll ask that first. Could a cybersecurity community be mistaken?
I got to be honest and say, yeah, they could have a mistake, meaning that isn't a security risk, or they could be mistaken that they can alleviate it. So they could have possibly preemptively shut it down when they could have, like, oh, maybe they could have fixed it. That could be the case. Yeah.
Okay. And how is there a way we could know about it if they are mistaken or not?
That's kind of out of scope of my understanding. I would presume those in that expertise field would be able to, come up with some kind of hypothesis on what would lead to them making a mistake, and could they recognize that? I would hope so. I would think, we've been doing this for quite some time, and there's some skilled people out there from what I'm involved with a lot of people that do a lot of different things for careers, and I talk to my clients, and they share a lot of stuff, and it blows my mind of what people are doing. So yeah, I would presume that they should be able to recognize a possible potential mistake. Yeah, be able to
Okay.
recognize it.
Okay. All right. I don't know that I got much more. We're getting pretty late. We're over time already, so I think I'm gonna.
Yeah, cool.
I'll let you have the last word. Yeah.
Oh man, I appreciate it. I enjoyed it. I got my side of it. You asked us some really good questions, and I enjoyed it. Thanks.
All right. Beautiful. We had one last person with their hand up, but they put it down. I'm not sure. Oh, they put it back up. That'll be our last person. If anybody puts their hand up after this, sorry. That's it. Hello there. How you doing?
Yeah, hey, sorry. I just thought we were out of time, so I put my hand back down. But thank you for letting me on.
Oh.
How are you?
I'm doing great. Doing great. You just snuck it.
Well, cool, man. Good. So, I mean, I guess I only had a couple of things to say. I just wanted to clarify, I guess, how I felt about what Aona was saying,
Okay.
and maybe a couple other thoughts that I had that were kind of trailing along as I was listening. And I think maybe what he was trying to say, and maybe a few more words, could be that something like TikTok, I guess you could say, already has an established community, or it has a sort of ecosystem of content that could drag a lot of people to keep paying attention, and maybe could spread a lot of information very easily. I'm not saying that that's necessarily a strong enough reason to justify keeping it on, right? I won't say whether I would want to remove TikTok or not, right? But I will say that if we were to remove it, I guess one good reason could be that there's not enough moderation on it. There's not enough of a keen eye on the content, but there is a lot of content to find, and you can find a huge variety, maybe more variety than you can find on something like YouTube Shorts, for example, right?
Gotcha. One thing that we haven't talked about tonight is a strategy for moderation. What's the best strategy to moderate a app like
Oh,
TikTok?
that's a good question. Yeah, I guess the only thing I could say to that is we need more thorough rules. Like, for example, something like how Discord has, and there are, you know, more places you can find more elaborated sentences or statements of what the rules means. Like, if you have like a part of the rules, you can find other sections and other pages that elaborate on it more. You know, they're linked to other things. So really, I guess the only thing I could say is there needs to be active moderators and there needs to be a spreading of the word of what the rules are, and that needs to be an active effort as well. And there also needs to be other platforms involving themselves into the effort. I guess I think the more partnerships you create as a company, the better. I used to be someone who would kind of question that kind of dynamic, but I think that's a very important dynamic to have in the industry, I guess you could say, right?
Sure. Okay. So we got to have rules. We got to have active moderators. We got to spread the rules everywhere. When you say active moderators, do you mean them enforcing the rules?
Yeah, totally. So I think there should be people that actually work at the company, and they should be viewing some of the content, and there should be active report buttons with, whole forms that you can fill out with as much information as you can come up with about the content that you viewed and how you think it's breaking the rules, and I think we should encourage people to do that more. And they shouldn't just take one of them at face value, but they should read them thoroughly, kind of like how, like I said, Discord would, or Steam, or TeamSpeak, or Twitter, or even YouTube, all these other platforms.
Okay.
Of course, I'm not saying they all do a very good job at that, right? Not
Yeah.
all the time, but they do a
Right.
decent job, maybe the majority of the time, we could say, right?
Okay. Yeah, no, that sounds relatively solid. Have active moderators. How do these active moderators, I think you mentioned that they should be employees of the company. Is that what you had said?
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, from what we've seen in the past, whenever that's not the case, it's a little too haphazard. Now, there has been great success in certain cases where it was all community driven. We've seen some edge case successes, but I wouldn't say that they were that common.
Sure. Okay. Why is this important to you?
Well, to me, the only thing that's important is that we lead the right community to the right information, and in a timely manner. I think kids should already be, like, you could say, governed enough by their parents already. The only thing that I find important about this is that we get the word out, and I find that important because the more information we have out there, the better, right? Which is one of the reasons I might actually defend something like TikTok, right? There is a lot of information there, a lot of varying kinds of content. So, I think wherever we get our information from, we should have a lot of it. And that's how I feel about it.
Okay. Yeah, I don't exactly know where you didn't state where you stood on the TikTok issue, and I'm not going to press the issue. You don't have to tell me. Maybe I don't even want you to tell me. Don't.
Well, it might come out in some accidental form, and yeah, I mean, you can feel free to press. I might end up answering.
No. You know what? I think it's better if I don't. But I will ask this question.
Okay.
Whichever side you are on, don't even know, doesn't matter. What could you learn or discover that would get you to the other side?
I guess I would have to have someone who's actually had their hands on the experience enough, because I haven't watched hardly any TikTok content. I've only seen the content from TikTok that my friends have sent me, or that I've seen on a YouTube video that was talking about some issue that was relating to TikTok, or maybe somehow connected to it. And so, I would have to have a large body of information telling me, hey, this is either really good or really bad, right? And then that would convince me of one or the other.
What would the good and bad look like?
It would look like probably vastly unmoderated, we could say not safe for work content, or maybe potentially dangerous or hazardous or threatening content, that sort of thing. Or, I would have to see something like active moderation, where maybe it was something that could have led to something much bigger happening that was really bad, but it was stopped at the root before that bad thing happened. For example, threatening behavior that was getting stopped by a staff member, where maybe only one or two people noticed. It could have been something that could have led to something worse, but it was still inevitably stopped, right?
Okay. I think we'll leave it there. Do you have any
I
questions
appreciate it.
for me? Any
No, I'm all
questions for
good.
me?
Thank you for having me on.
Cool.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. And this is where we wrap up the show. So with that being said, Snow, I know you have your magic moderator abilities. If you want to post that link to the after show while I talk about it. So what that is, it's in another server. It's the CE server, Compassionate Epistemology. Kind of what I'm trying to do here a little bit. And it's where you guys can give feedback, talk about the show a little bit, say what went right, what went wrong, roast me. all that good stuff. But yeah, she'll be putting that in the chat in Discord. I might as well drop that in YouTube. Do I have it there? I think that's it. Hopefully that's it. Well, we'll find out if that's it. But and with that being said, that's where I'm going to go off to. I'm going to try to roll that outro now. But OBS has been weird, so I don't know if it's going to work.